Welcome, fourth graders. We are beginning our weaving unit. We're going to learn how to weave on a cardboard loom like this one. We're going to learn some basic weave, some box weave. We're going to learn how to put this fringe on, which is called raya. We're going to add beads, and we have some other alternative stitches we're going to work on. This is going to be taking us a couple of weeks, so bear with. We're going to go through each week with a little bit of the video and a little step-by-step learning different things. Okay, your first step is you're going to get a cardboard loom, and you need a full ball of yarn. Okay, we need as much yarn to put the warp threads on. And so we need a large quantity, so you need to get a whole ball of yarn. Now the kind of yarn that we're going to use here is kind of a nice weight yarn. It's strong. We want strong. I would avoid getting anything that's pretty and fluffy like this for the warp string, and anything that is really skinny and kind of weak and would break. We want some nice strong thread for the warp threads on the cardboard loom. Now, most of the looms have two sides, one's black, one's white. I do recommend that if you have a dark color, use the white side, and if you have a light color, use the black side. Okay, first step, you're going to get a ball of yarn and your loom, and you're going to stick down one end, and you're going to put your name here, and put 4R or 4H, whatever section you're on, okay? All right, so you're gonna put that there. Then you're going to begin to weave. Now you're gonna start with the first slot. Now sometimes this slot is hard to get those in there sometimes, so you kind of have to stand it up and just kind of yank it in there. Now you don't want your strings too tight, but just gently put them between the little slats and go back and forth. It's almost like you're going to be running back and forth from one end of the gym to the other. Go back and forth. Now they fit right into those little slots, and you go back and forth. Do not skip any of the little slats. Hit every one of them. That will make a difference when we are weaving. See me and raise your hand if you end up with any problems. For example, there's a missed one. Don't miss that. If you have any problems with string breaking, or if you have any problems with the string not going far enough, because we want one continuous string going back and forth on this loom. This little piece here does not want to go on there, but we'll deal with that later. So you're going back and forth. Now on this side of the loom you have your strings. You can play them like a banjo there. On this side of the loom you want the strings to be just little loops here. So we don't want any strings running down the back side. We only want the strings running up and down the front side. So this one's almost done, so I'm just going to finish this one up. All right, so you're basically going back and forth, finishing this out. All your strings on one side, short sides, loops are on the other. Okay, these short loops are actually ones we will take off the loom at the very end of the project. We will take it off the looms stay here. The weaving that you do will go home with you. Okay, once you're all done, you're going to cut your string off the ball and tape it down. So both ends are taped down to the back. You've got short loops on this side, long strings on this side to weave. Okay, now's time to find some yarn. Now you're going to need some lengths of yarn, and I have buckets like this that are going to go in each of the tables, and it has different strings coming out of the different holes here, okay, and it holds the string, and you can just pull off a piece of string and cut it to length. Now I would say a long length, maybe from the end of your arm to your nose, is how long you'd need it, okay? You're not going to have a full ball of yarn to work with this time. Short lengths is what you want. So cut off a piece and begin to weave. Now you're going to also get a nice needle here, okay? So we've got a needle, and it is up to you, but you can put a knot at this end. I'm going to cut that one off because it's really stuck, but find a nice piece of string and thread it, put it through the hole, and you can have a nice length there, or you also can tie it on there. If you find that it comes off quite a bit, you can tie it on there, and that's fine. Just you have to untie it when you're all done with this color. Okay, so as you remember, when we're weaving, and I'm going to zoom in just a little bit closer, we're going to go under, over, under, over. And I remember I have a cut off piece of string and not a full ball anymore. So under, over, under, over, under, over, and thread it through that loom. Pull it all the way to the end. Leave a little bit of a tail there. And you're done with that. All right, so now I'm going to come back. Now when I have gone under, over, every other one, under, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, all the way to the end. And now when I come back, as you can see, this string here, I've gone under. But when I go back, I want to go over, under, the opposite. If you don't do that, this is what happens. You're going under, over, and you're going through those same little, they're even raised just a little bit because your string is there, and so it's easy to go back under those same strings again. Unfortunately, this is what happens when you do that. You actually end up pulling it out. Weaving is much stronger if you alternate. Each time you weave and go back and forth, you're creating and making a piece of fabric. Basically, that's how fabric is made. So it's weaved with small strings. All right, pulling that through, not all the way to the end. And now you're going under, over, the opposite. So where I went under before, this time I'm going over. And where I went over before, I'm going under. And I'm just pulling my string all the way through. Remember not to skip any. Try to be consistent. Now I can push that string up and continue like I was before. Where I went over, I'm going to go under. Where I went under, I'm going to go over. Alternating pattern of under, over, and then the next time you pass, you go up, over, under. Back and forth. Now I've got a nice piece of string here, and I'm going to continue as long as I have this string. Once I run out of string, I can get a different color and come up with something else to weave. Back and forth. All right, nearing the end. Okay, now I did mention I was going to decide what we were going to do with these ends here. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to basically weave them back in. I'm just going to finger weave these in and stick it in like that. Okay? Same with this one here. I'm going to make a little bit of a space and I'm going to weave the ends in. Okay? Kind of just hiding them away within the weaving. That way it makes it a lot easier. You don't have to have any knots and they stay put. When you scrunch all your weaving in like this, it hides all those ends and it holds it together nicely. All right, so that's the first color. Now we're going to come up again and find another color. Now I do want to address something that is a common problem with weaving. I will sometimes see students come right over here and they'll grab a ball of yarn and they'll have the ball of yarn with them. They'll just have it right here. And they'll start weaving. And a weave away they go. And there's a problem with having this ball of yarn, is that it doesn't have an end, okay? And I'm going to be weaving back and forth. And all of a sudden I'm at the end and I have all this yarn here that I think I'm going to weave, but I'm out of string. You actually have to choose the length of the string before you start, and you just cut it off, pull it all the way through, weave what you're going to weave, push it up, weave in the ends, and continue on. Okay? Weave back and forth till you're all out of that string. Now this is your basic weave, and that's as far as we're going to go today. Next time you come, we'll work on some other types of weaving. Okay, I am going to address one little thing when we were working with basic weaving, and it's this. I have weaved in to the end of my string here, and my string ends up in the middle of my weaving. What I'm going to do there is I'm just going to back up just a little bit with my new string. I'm starting a new color, and I'm going to back up a little bit and just kind of copy those same stitches. I know I always say do the opposite, but just for a little bit of overlap, I want to continue this stitch the rest of the way across. So I've kind of backed up just a little bit, and these two will be the same in the same pattern of weaving, and I'm just going to pull that through. So I've started my new string. Oh, and it's a real long one, so this is going to take me a while. And I'm going to pull it all the way through and see where this one has ended. I'm going to just kind of let them kind of overlap each other a little bit like that and continue on weaving. So I've got the end of this one and it's tucked in and hiding, and then I've got the beginning of this one and it has the same stitches together, and we're going to scrunch that all up so it doesn't, you can't tell that I've cheated a little bit there, but I'm hiding all my ends. And that's how weavers do that. They don't have string sticking out and they don't have knots sticking out. They actually just weave in all of their ends, and once it's all scrunched together, those ends are secure. All right, so I am going to now just continue with my basic weaving with this needle, with this new color. Pulling my string all the way through. I got a long string, it's gonna fill in quite a bit. The only problem with a real long string like this is sometimes you have to really keep it from getting tangled. So a little warning there. I also have chosen a kind of a fatter, thicker string, which fills in my rows. Tiny little threads will take a lot longer, a lot more rows than the thicker threads. So I am going to continue on my way, completing my basic weaving. And then I'll show you some other kinds of weaving, some other options. All right, stay tuned. All right, I'm coming along with my basic weaving, and don't forget, this is beading, which is when you scrunch it back up. You take some time and just scrunch it up. Now, if you scrunch it up really a lot, you will end up having to weave more. So don't spread it out too far, but don't scrunch it up too skinny, because it will take you longer, and we will be working on this maybe 4 or 5 weeks. And I know sometimes we run out of time. So nice distance, beat this, as they say, scrunch up your yarn and then finish off your end. And I'm going to do that this way. I've got a little end of string here. I'm just going to weave it in to hide it, okay? And sometimes if you just finger weave it, you're going to hide your end. And then scrunch it, beat it back in, okay? And that'll hide all those little end strings. Now, be careful when you're weaving that you don't squeeze too hard, pull all the strings together too hard. Kind of keep them just the nice laying flat, okay? Otherwise, it does start to squeeze inward. All right, now also when you get string out of the bucket, you can open up the bucket and get string out or out of these holes. Help me out though, if there's no strings coming out of the holes, get them so that you can find the end, stick it through that little notch, and it sticks in that little slit that's there, okay? And then you can pull out the string that you want, and if it's tangled, feel free to open it up. Now, if there's buckets at your table, everybody's going to have a bucket of string. If you don't see anything that you like, you're welcome to go to another table and find something out of one of the other buckets. All right, so now we're going to do our next step is to work on the box weave, and that is weaving one side and then weaving the other, okay? So you're gonna start that out, and you're gonna get a piece of string, and don't forget, you gotta cut that string. Cut that string off and begin weaving. try to find where you left off. So I went under this time, so now I'm going over. And I'm just going to go halfway down. And I'm going to come back. And make sure you go over, under, and over, under. Opposite directions. And basically, you're just going to weave half of it for a while. Be careful not to squeeze it. Starts to get skinnier as you go along, so you gotta be careful not to pull too hard. And I'm just basically with this string going back and forth, back and forth. Very nice. And I'm actually, you don't need to scrunch it up at first. Just kind of go back and forth, back and forth. At the very end, you can scrunch it up. And just keep going back and forth. Easy enough. It doesn't take long to really actually get going since you're only doing half of it. All right, for time's sake, I'm going to go over here and get my second string. I'm going to pick another color. Totally different color. Otherwise, you're defeating the purpose of the weaving if you pick the same color. Okay, so I'm going to start over here now. So when I started weaving here, I went under, over. So I'm going to go over, under. Now, this is the tricky part. You're going to share a center string, okay? And in this case, it's this one. So I'm going to catch that string. The maroon string is already on it. I'm going to pull this through, and I'm going to begin weaving. And pull it through and see how that's sharing that string. Now I'm going to push up the maroon string because I've already done 2 rows of the gray, and I'm going to come back again and I'm going to catch that center string, and I'm coming back and forth, and now I'm weaving, and I'm going to go back and forth. Now this string might not be as long, I don't know, as the other one. That might be something to consider. Now pushing up my reddish string, and I'm going to keep going until I run out of string. And if I need to, if I run out of string a little earlier than this one, I can decide to take some of this out, or I can get some more string. But basically, you're going in and out between the rows of the string. So I've got a gray, I've got a red, I got a gray, I got a red, and I'm sharing the center string. And I'm done with the gray, so I'm going to basically tuck that in. And then I'm going to also tuck this in. And then once I'm all done, I can kind of, I've got this extra string. I think I'll just go down the row with this extra string and finish it off. I can continue with a new color. There we go. Push that up, tuck these extras in. And there we have the box weave. 1/2 this color, 1/2 that color. And then I can continue with a new color with a basic weave. All right, that's the end of that step. All right, welcome back. We are going to continue our lessons on weaving. We've learned the basic weave. We learned how to box weave. Now we're going to learn how to make the raya and add beads, okay? So let's look at that. Okay, so the raya is just basically fringe. Now, you can fill this whole area with lots of fringe, or you can just put it in a few places. It's up to you. I do want you to try all these little steps that we're learning. Okay, so here we go. So with the raya, it's little fringes, and I would just cut off, I don't know, these are about 3 or 4, maybe 5 inches pieces. And if you have them a little longer than you need, you can always trim them to all the same length. So get a couple colors, figure out where you want them. Now, this is what you do, is you lay them in kind of a U on 2 strings. Pick out 2 strings that you want them on and put a U there. And you're basically going to take the ends and tuck them in and out, so that the U becomes more like this. I don't know what shape that would be. And then you just pull. And you just keep doing that. Find 2 more. Oops, on top. Lay them on top. Lay the U on top. Tuck the ends under and through the center and pull. And you can just continue to do that all the way across. Here's a U. Pull. Here's a U. Tuck those ends under and through, and pull. And just keep going all the way across. Oops, I did it wrong. On top, the U, stick the ends through, pull. On top is a U, stick the ends through the center and under and pull. Oh, I got one more. All right, might as well do one more. Now you can really fill this. You could, like here I've got some, I could join these up and add one in between, something like that, and keep adding if you'd like. It's kind of up to you. All right, so that is the raya. Next, let's talk about adding beads. All right, you find a piece of string that you like, colors that you like. Maybe I'll add some more gray, kind of like that gray color. And you're going to weave like you normally would. You're going to thread your needle, push it through. Actually, instead, we're going to get the smaller needle, and I'll have a couple kinds of needles up there. And the smaller needle works really well for a couple purposes. One, when you have small little ends like this, you can use the smaller needle, thread it, push those ends in, and you can use it to hide those ends again. So push that through. And then stick those in, tuck them in. Okay, also, once you got your string, push those raya out the way. Now don't worry if they're loose or tight or anything like that, because once we start weaving in again, that will kind of correct itself. The width of the strings will all kind of come back together again. All right, so I'm going to thread this smaller needle, and that sometimes requires a little bit of work. Twist the end, pinch it, push it, pull it, okay? And there you've threaded the smaller needle. Okay, so now I'm going to begin weaving, and I am going to look at my previous row to figure out where to start off again. And I'm going to weave in and out. Now, I want to add beads to this. So I'm going to pull my string to the end, and I'm going to add some beads. Now, you may notice over there I have an assortment of beads, and some of the beads don't fit on the needle, so you kind of have to give up on those. But find the bigger beads with a bigger hole and stick those on there. Pick the colors that you want, of course. And now I've got it where I can start threading them in. Find a bead, stick it on the string, pull it through, and I also can decide, oh, I wanted one over here. I can kind of just move it around a little bit, find the spot where I want that bead. All right, got that one, and I think I'll stick another one on. I will have some bead buckets, a nice full bucket of beads available for you each to have at your table, and you can kind of pick out what you want, but there are some beads mixed in there that might not work, so you have to kind of figure that out. The ones with the bigger holes, thread through. All right, so now I've got a row of beads there, and now I can continue to weave in. I would maybe put a regular row of weaving in, and then if you want more beads, you can weave some more in. So now if I come back this way, push those up, got my raya and my beads, and that's the next step to be utilizing in this class period, and we'll learn a few more other tips, okay, coming up. There we go. All right, welcome back. I'm going to show you a variation on our weaving as we are going forward. If you remember here, we worked on a box weave where we used one color and we weaved one half, and then we came back through and weaved the other with another color on the other half. Here's a variation that you can try. Basically, I weaved down, and I didn't go all the way to the end, but I went just 3 from the end, or 2 or 3 from the end, and then I came back, and I'm going to continue to weave, but I'm kind of going to stagger the ending. So I'm going to weave back and forth with one color, and I'm going to stair step it here. And you have several options here. You could stair step it one way and go the other way and come up with some different colors. You use your imagination. I bet you'll come up with some clever ideas. All right, so if you can see here with my stitching, I've gone back and forth down kind of a staggered stitch, and now I'm going to come back with the other side and with another color. And I'm going to figure out where the weaving ends, and I'm going to share this string that this is weaved on with that one. Don't forget to do that. All these ends also can be weaved in. So I'm going to back and forth. I'm going to go over, under. All right, what did I do wrong there? I did something wrong there. So, Mrs. Davidson does that too. So I'm going to bring this string through. And I measured these strings out so that they're similar in length ahead of time, so that I could kind of make sure it filled in. So these two are shared, and I'm going to push those up, and then I'm going to come back and go to this shared string. And if you can see here, I have to kind of go over it first and then swim under it. That's an issue that comes up sometimes. Now I've got that one, and I'm going to push this one up. There's a numerous amount of options with this box or slotted weave. You can come up with some different alternatives there, and I'd encourage you to come up with some cool ideas. All right, so I'm going to push that one up, and then I'm basically just coming back and forth, weaving in and out. And if I have extra string, I can just keep weaving a regular stitch and fill in after that last one. So push that one up. And then as we've talked about, all these ends can be, you can take a small needle, stitch it in, and kind of just tuck those in, hiding your ends. All right, so here we have some variations, lots of things that you can do. I'm at this point, now that we've shown you several different types of weaving, I'm going to let you go to it and do whatever kinds of weaving that you'd like. I'd like you to try each item that we've learned, from regular weave, box weave, raya, beads, and variations on the box weave, like I've done here. And then I'll show you how we're going to end this. There we go. Now, what we're going to do at the very end, when we have finished all of our weaving, and this is going to take us several weeks as we fill this in, and some of you have really pushed this up tight, and you're finding you're not getting very far. You may decide to keep it somewhat loose so that you can kind of progress along, because we will be working on this for several weeks, but it does take some of us a little longer than others. So what you're going to do is, when we finish this and we get it all full up, is we're going to, and I'd like you to get as far as you can, fit as many as you can, as far as you can, based on what time we have. And then I'm going to take a quick picture of it for Artsonia. And then we're going to do this. We're going to tuck in all our strings, get it all ready, and then we're going to flip it over. And to take it off the loom, you just basically pull off all of these little tabs. And it's going to come off of there. I'll do it on this one. Pull it right off of there. And it's going to come off. Now, I'm going to have these little ends here like this. When I pull on that a little bit, that is going, and I can kind of stretch my stitching out a little bit, that's going to hide those ends, okay? Now, if you don't finish and you got these long loose ends, let's say you don't get as far as you think you're going to get, and you're going to have these sitting there. What you'll do for that is, I would cut the end, tie these together, because in order for these loops have to stay enclosed for them to not come out. We don't want all this weaving to come out. So basically, you're going to take it off your loom, kind of undo that, cut, and tie. I would double knot it, give it 2 ties just to secure it. It doesn't have to be super tight. And then you've got some fringe there that you can trim if you want. Just trim just a little bit, but leave that on there. That's what's keeping that together, okay? So this end, take these off you can scrunch up a little bit, and that hides those little ends there. And this end, if you didn't get as far, you can just tie those off. All right, that's the end of our weaving unit. Congratulations. I bet you did a super job.